Hello and welcome to another Tyrrell's Classic Workshop. This time round we're looking at this car here, another Lamborghini Miura, and this car we restored. We did a full ground-up restoration on it, which was completed about 4 years ago, something like that. It's come in for effectively a first service because of COVID and one thing or another, and it's got a running fault on it which we're looking into. I think it's stale fuel actually. It's spitting back through the carburetors on light throttle when you're driving it. It has all the sort of symptoms of stale petrol, which is not surprising because it's been stood round. But it's a lovely car. It's finished in this Blue Speciale, which the owner and myself went to a great deal of trouble to nail for him so that it was exactly right, and it suits the car perfectly. As I say, that we've done a complete rotisserie ground-up restoration on this car. It has come in with a running fault, and let's see if it's just as simple as stale fuel. Well, this is really curious because we've drained the fuel tank, we've put fresh fuel in it, we've run it through the carburetors, and we clearly have not got a stale fuel problem because the front bank of carburetors, the inlets are clear, but the back bank of carburetors, the rearmost bank of 6 cylinders, are actually black inside the carburetors, which either means there's something drastically wrong with one of 3 things: the fueling, the valve timing, or the ignition timing. And I'm going to eliminate valve timing because we've not long rebuilt the engine and we know that the valve timing is set up and nobody else has been tinkering with the car. So, I mean, it's a really odd problem, this. It's not what I was expecting. So we're going to just check the ignition timing and the fueling, the carburetors, and see what's going on there. Well, we put the trumpets on and given it a run, and quite clearly it's spitting back through these so we could monitor exactly. We've also done the ignition timing on this bank, and it's 21 degrees advanced over what it should be, and that is enough actually to give us a problem. It sort of throws the combustion process out of kilter, and you end up getting spitting backfiring, which gives a bit of carbon build-up, a bit of exhaust, essentially, coming into the inlet. So undoubtedly, something is not right inside here. So I'm going to take this distributor off and strip it down and see what we find. Well, here's the distributor. We've taken it off. Some Miuras have 2 6-cylinder distributors because a V12 is 2 6-cylinder engines, and some of them have one 12-cylinder distributor, depending on whether they've got air conditioning fitted or not. If they have got aircon, they need the space of the second distributor to put the air conditioning bracket on. So this is a non-air conditioned car, so therefore it has a 6-cylinder distributor. We did fit electronic ignition to this car when we restored it, quite whizzy electronic distributors, fully electronic, but unfortunately one of them has very unusually failed, so we put it back on this conventional Morelli Lamborghini system, which is what they had on when they were new. And actually they work surprisingly well if they're maintained. You've got 2 sets of contact points in here which make and break, and they are synchronized to coincide with the firing order of the 6 cylinders. And then you have the distributor shaft which rotates here. But the interesting thing is, and this is I've identified that this is the problem. This is called the centrifugal advance mechanism, and it relies on weights, which as this drum spins faster with engine revs, the weights actually go outwards against spring pressure and alter the position of the distributor ignition point, as compared to what's happening at this end. So this end is turning, and the weights actually move out under spring pressure. And what's happened is, one of the springs is broken inside, which is causing this to move too easily. So we checked the ignition timing, and it should be 18 degrees before top dead center, and it was actually 21 degrees advanced, which by my arithmetic equals 39 degrees. So that's too much, and that's why it was actually spitting back through the carburetors and causing the inside to have combustion dust, a little bit of a film of carbon in there. So I'm going to put a new spring in here. This is very old technology. This is effectively taken from a steam engine, from the governor on a steam engine. That had bob weights on it, as they're called, which expanded with centrifugal force until they reached a certain point, and they stopped the engine overspeeding using a linkage. Very clever steam engine technology. These were around for years in various forms because the faster the engine revs, the sooner the spark has to happen on a gasoline or petrol engine, because the explosion takes the same length of time, effectively, even though things around it are happening a lot more quickly. So that's why the spark advance has to happen at higher RPM. And it's amazing to think that something as tiny as a broken spring can cause all these problems, something as tiny. So I'm going to strip the distributor now, strip this off. There's that bit, which is the plate, and then we have the bob weights here, which are on pivots. They come off. And we can clean all this lot up. It's not in bad condition, actually. I'm pretty sure we did something with them at the time as a backup, just in case of situations such as this. That's actually the good one, but the other one is broken, and what's happening is it's allowing the weight to spring open too soon. So all that affects the running of a 380 brake horsepower engine. It can cause it to run out of kilter, essentially. So I'll build this up with some new springs, and then it's all preset. We've checked the clearances and everything. They're all to factory spec. So when I build this back up with the correct springs, it will all function exactly as it should do. But it's really amazing. It's very interesting to think that this dates back to the 16 or 1700s with steam engine technology, still using this kind of mechanism today. And it works very well. These Marelli distributors are very reliable, actually, generally speaking. So yeah, we found the problem. Not what I thought it was, but every day's a school day. Well, we've got our two new springs here. This has been cleaned out, the housing assembly, the drum. So I'm just going to build this up with a little bit of copper grease. These are beautifully engineered, these Marelli distributors. They are Italian precision engineering at their finest, probably, which is a very sad thing for me to say, because the Lucas distributors, people called Lucas the Prince of Darkness, particularly in America, and unfortunately it wasn't altogether untrue. So put that in there, a little bit of copper grease. But these, they will sort of run a V12 engine for many thousands of miles if they're set up properly, which is very impressive, really. So we put that in there, a little bit of copper grease, and we build those up on there. These components are in fabulous condition, really, when you consider this is 50 years old. Okay, I will concede it hasn't done an amazing amount of miles, but even so, put that on there. Oh yes, that is much, much tougher. And it's also returning to the rest position. That's much better. Put a little bit of copper grease in there. Same on that side. Wipe off the excess. And back into the distributor it goes, and back on the car. As I was saying earlier, we've got these contact points here, the contact breakers, which as this three-lobed cam rotates, it's not working properly at the moment because it's not fixed at the top. It actually opens the points as the cam comes over and then closes them again, and then it synchronizes the other set to open in between. So you get 6 openings of the points per revolution of the distributor, which is your 6 cylinders on that bank. and as they open, they cause the ignition coil to exert a high voltage spark out of the outlet on the distributor, which then goes to the spark plug, and obviously it combusts the mixture. But the interesting thing is, we've got to be careful, because with quite a lot of modern electronic ignition systems, we've actually experienced that if we put too strong a spark on these old ignition systems, whether this bit needs to be electronic or not, the actual infrastructure, the cap and rotor arm, there's the rotor arm that fits on the shaft and revolves, they actually get the spark jumping, and it causes a misfire in the car. So there's a limit to how much the original ignition system can cope with voltage-wise. Some people would say take it off and put a new ultra high energy all electronic ignition system on, get rid of everything. But things like that are the question. How far do we go? How far do we keep it original? But anyway, this is all built up now. Till the electronic ignition system comes back, we'll put that back on the car, and the car should perform beautifully in the meantime. Should. Okay, let's see. Well, as ever, the byword with classic cars is warming them up properly. So I'm just doing that now, but I can tell already that it's very different. It's smoother, the response is more linear, everything's happy, for want of a better way of putting it. No spitting back. These Miuras do not get any bigger to sit in. They really are tiny. I can't quite understand. Bob Wallace, who was the test driver for Lamborghini at the time, was 6'2". I'm just on 6 foot, and they actually made the Miura 2 inches lower to start with. How on earth he fitted in those, I have no idea. Okay, he was rather slimmer than me, but incredible, really. Even with the extra 2 inches of roof space, there is negligible room inside them. I'm sure they're getting smaller with every one I get in. But anyway, we won't dwell on that. But everything's warming through. Feels lovely and smooth. That's just on 2,000 RPM now. Engine is very happy. We might have a bit of a result here. Following my discovering and authenticating the Italian job Miura in 2016, I thought that would be the career highlight of my life. But there's actually another one on the way, which I think will beat that. So that's a little spoiler. I'm going to say no more, but we have something very exciting coming up in 2022. But I'm very, very happy with this car, the way it's going. She's still not up to temperature, so we're just monitoring that. And the other thing to mention is that the engine warm-up video is on the way. It takes a bit of putting together because I'm using so many different engines as an example, but I did mention a while back about how to start and warm up different types of classic car. I am going to be doing that in the near future. But we'll just bear with this car a few minutes and just warm it through. Well, things have warmed through now. One of the joys of this job, it's so satisfying when we've done a complete restoration and the whole car has been torn apart to the very last nut and bolt and put back together again. One of the real challenges on Miuras is the gearbox. As I've said before on videos, because the gear change goes literally through the engine to the gearbox at the back, it's quite a complicated linkage, to put it mildly, and it's very difficult to get them optimal. They are notoriously difficult, and this one is really, now it's warmed up, very happy. It's a joy to use, actually. It's all to do with the thickness of the molybdenum coating on the synchro rings. It's quite involved, it's quite technical to get them right. But once they are right, or as right as they can be, it's never going to be fingertip like a modern sort of a 1990s or early noughties Honda or something like that, but it's nevertheless very good. Just click click from 3 to 4, and once again the engine, because it's set up properly, it's quite happy just to tinker along. I'm doing all of 70 kilometers an hour at the moment, just ambling along in 4th gear. Miuras in the day had a reputation for conking out, for being unreliable, just breaking down, and one of the reasons for that is that the carburetors, more often than not, just weren't tuned properly on them, and they were over rich, and the plugs got fouled up, and eventually, I mean, I've heard many stories of film shoots where the Miura's just given up halfway through, but not this one. It's oh, it wants to go now. It's warm. I can feel it chomping at the bit. It's really, really wanting to me just to open the taps and give it its head. So now that everything's warmed up and the carburetors are sorted out and the timing's sorted out, let's give it a try. Woo! That is fantastic. All present and correct, all 6 bulls charging, all 12 bulls charging. Wonderful, we'll try that again. Yes, that is a result. Beautifully run in, all the piston rings bedded into the bores, all the valves doing their bit, everything's sparking at the right time, burning and turning properly. Great, fantastic. We don't think about how much it's worth, we just think about the open road and the loud pedal. Well, that concludes another Tyrrell Classic Workshop video. Hope you've enjoyed it. Please share, please like, please subscribe, and you can follow me on Instagram as well for some sort of quirky snapshots of life in the universe, and we'll be back with something else very soon.